My name is Nikhil Guru, and I'm a representative of the Student Placement Council of the IIT Madras PhD degree program. And today I'm very happy to join you as the moderator for this session. So I would like to give a very warm welcome to our guest of the hour, Mr. Kireeti Kesavamurthy. So sir here joins us today to discuss about the topic of aligning technology and business use cases. So a little bit about our guest here today. He is the current director of enterprise analytics, data, and AI at Visa, and he joins us today with over 24 years of experience in the field. He has worked with companies like IBM and Intel, and today he'll be sharing with us a little bit of his knowledge and experience of how we can move forward and align technology to business in our everyday life. So thank you so much, sir, for joining us today. I'll hand over the mic to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Nikhil. So let's get started. Welcome, everybody, and good evening, by the way. And I believe remaining folks may join as we start and proceed further with the session. Okay, so I hope everybody can see my screen, the title slide, aligning technology and business use cases. Yes, no?
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Okay, awesome. So the format of the presentation of the session is such that, I have about 7 to 8 slides, right? We have roughly about 45 minutes to cover. And either, we can cover up all the questions that you guys have at the end of the session. We'll dedicate about 20 to 15 minutes to go through Q&A, right? And in the meantime, I'll just go through the slides so that I'll have continuity. You can keep typing in the questions, or you can keep noting down the questions, and finally we will go through each and every question. Okay, so I definitely expect a lot of questions from you guys, and of course I saw a lot of enthusiasm on the LinkedIn to connect with me, and that reciprocates probably with the kind of questions and interest that you might have on the topic, right? So let us make it interactive. Okay, so having said that, and the reason why I proposed this topic is because one of the gaps that we see in industry is that many people come with the right technology skills, or rather expertise in coding, in various technologies for that matter, whether it is web technologies, data science, analytics, or AI, ML algorithms, whatever that is for that matter. People come with, very good skill set. And nowadays, find a lot of students who come out of the college, they're extremely good at coding. Okay. But what they lack is the business side of the knowledge. And the reason why it is lacking is not, because of the, the educational system that we have, or rather the subjects that you study at the college, but mostly it is from the point of view of inclination or interest, right? Most of the time we keep thinking about Python, AL, ML algorithms, but we rarely think about which is that business, or which is that business use case wherein we are trying to apply our knowledge on, right? All the skill sets that you gather in terms of being extremely proficient in web technologies or cloud technologies, or AI and ML, or data science for that matter, has to be applied for business, isn't it? So at the end of the day, we are here to make money. And if your skill is not applied on the right use cases for the right business, then there's no ROI for all the investment that the companies make, isn't it? So it's extremely important that you fine tune your thought process, mentality, to always gain some amount of domain knowledge. Okay, so today we are focusing on that piece of the alignment, wherein we are trying to amalgamate technology and the business so that you understand the overall landscape in its entirety in terms of how the technology skills that you've acquired is applicable or applied onto the business. Okay, and at the same time, I would like to talk about two sides or two phases of professionals in the industry. There are certain professionals who need to be guided in terms of what needs to be done, what is your next project, what is your next story or an epic that you'll be working on. There are a few sets of intelligent, I call it intelligent professionals, who just needs a kickstart into the project. After that, they'll figure out their way, they'll guide the roadmap because they see a bigger picture which others don't see. What it needs is a very subtle difference between the two people. One is your the one person is always looking for guidance. Okay, I don't have work, can you give me some work? Other person, you don't have to give me work. Okay, you just show me the path as to what we're working on, I'll figure out what we need to do. That's the smart way of approaching. That's how you go ahead in your career. You can't always be asking for work, looking for work, right? You should be able to observe things around you, keep your eyes and ears open, look at the big picture of where the organization is going in that bigger ecosystem, which is that project that you're working on, and what are the pros and cons of approaches that we are looking at, what needs to be fine-tuned, what needs to be optimized, what are the things that need to be automated. These are the things that you need to keep on bringing up onto the table so that you offer and build the technical roadmap for the team, right? The moment get into that domain of identifying problems and opportunities, then there's you're absolutely the most needed guy for the organization. And that is the differentiating factor between the people who add experience and the people who are new. And those who had a lot of experience in terms of number of years, if they are not able to fine tune themselves in identifying opportunities and offering beyond what is asked them to do, then you're competing with the freshers. You're getting me right? That's the reason what happens in typically in the industry. The moment you cost 10 years of experience, number of calls that you get when you roll out your resume is pretty limited, because what is that you have to offer to the company which a 4 or 5 year guy doesn't offer? You're getting me right? That's how people think about it, isn't it? It's all about, how much we pay to you and what is that the return that you can give it to the company, right? And at the end of the year, guys, understand one thing. Everybody in here are here to make money, are here to make business. Nobody is here to run a charity just by giving up jobs to the people. And going forward, it is going to be even more and more competitive. So extremely important that you fine tune your thought process to align with the business. Domain knowledge is extremely important. Okay, that's where you're going to apply your knowledge. And even more important for the community of the student whom I'm talking to now, you guys are into data science. Right. One of the important facets of the data scientist is the domain knowledge. You need to understand business to apply all the statistics or the algorithms that you have learned. Okay. Having said that, let us move on. Right. So that is the kind of a foundation thought process in terms of taking up this topic seriously in terms of thinking and importance is what I've just highlighted. Now let us go through a few of the things that we have lined up for you as I move on to the next slide here. Can you see the next slide overview? Okay, awesome. So let us understand a few basic things. One is the technology. Today we are talking about amalgamation of technology and business. So first, let us understand technology. In its simple terms, these are a set of tools and tricks, isn't it? Right? And the technologies can be varied technologies that we are talking about in the industry today, right? We have a lot of things. We have cloud computing, machine learning, AI, ML, web technologies, IoT. All these are technologies. And why do we have these technologies? These are making something simpler. These are solving some problems in a faster and a most optimized way than what we used to do yesterday, right? And the reason why we are applying these technology and tools is to meet some purpose of a business, isn't it? So look at it from that angle. Of course, we are all passionate about each and every stream. Each one of you are extremely passionate about big data, AI, analytics, machine learning algorithms, and data science. Absolutely. But where are you going to apply it? Right? That is extremely important. So see technology as set of tools and tricks with which you are going to provide and add value to an organization. That's the mindset that you need to have. Okay. As we proceed further, right, the technologies, as you can see on the left-hand side, these are the various technologies, and you can keep on adding into it. I've listed the prominent things that are needed. And on the other side, we have various businesses that comes up in the picture. So we have supply chain, right? We have telecom, we have supplier relationship management, which we call it as SRM. We have customer relationship management, which we call it as CRM. You have transportation, logistics, agriculture, fintech, finance, medical, right? All these things are various businesses broadly categorized, and each one of you are getting into one of these industries wherein it's imperative that you understand these businesses, nitty-gritties of these businesses, right? How do you understand? You may not be reading about all these businesses in your course today, but you need to go through additional text, newspapers, or magazines to understand what is that area which you are extremely passionate about. Some of you may be passionate about finance. Some of you may be passionate about supply chain analytics. Some of you may be into image recognition, right? Maybe in the medical field, there is a lot of scope for image recognition, for disease detection, and so on and so forth. Right? What is that your area of passion? You pick up that and start reading about it. right? You're trying to set a foundation for yourself in terms of the area of activity that you want to deep dive into for the next several years, isn't it? So understand and read magazines, read articles which talks about each of these topics so that you have some idea about, whether it is that you want to work in a company or whether you want to start a startup. You understand the business very deeply. That is a core thing, isn't it? Most of the successful ideas are very simple ideas, right? And the solution that we provide has to be simple. More the complex doesn't mean that it is a super profit generating idea. It need not be, right? Simpler ideas which meets the end user customer requirements are the profitable ideas, right? How do you decide on these things? Is by deep diving into the domain, understanding the business, what is that the end user needs, and that's how you bridge the gap between technology and business. There has to be a clean handshake. There has to be a clean collaboration between the technology that you're trying to apply and which is that business use case, right? And right technological components for the right business is the clear cut match. The reason why I'm saying you need to pick and choose the right match between these two is because one important factor is cost, right? The cost depends on various factors, number of people who are working on it, and the time that you are trying to take to come up with a solution. Faster, you reach the solution, more the business advantage that you have, right? Data science and analytics use cases keeps changing because the business landscape is so fast that the requirement that your business user would have provided might have changed next month, might have changed in the next quarter. So you need to fine tune your model. You need to probably consider additional variables, features, and scenarios into your model. So unless in other ways you have a structured, simplistic solution which is scalable, adaptable, then it becomes very, very difficult for you to fine tune your solutions to meet the business and the latest upcoming requirements, isn't it? That's why you need to be very particular about what tricks and tools and technologies that you're using, which is simple and easily scalable and changeable and adaptable over the period of time. Got it? So that should be the kind of collaboration that we need to bring in. And that can happen only if you understand the business on which you're applying the technology. Okay, so that's the alignment that we are trying to bring it to. So the tech-driven thought process is the key, and then value driven by the business impact that you're going to create is extremely important. One of the things that which I would like to highlight here is that nobody is going to be elated by the complexity of the solution that you're going to provide. That may be a wow factor for a moment, right? Wow, generative AI is able to do a lot of things, but how are you using that to generate revenue or ROI is an important aspect, right? Right now, we are going through a hype cycle in terms of AI and ML, especially with generative AI. There are a lot of things people have invested. A lot of people have invested millions. Now they're figuring it out. How do I get an ROI? Of course, it can do a lot of things, but where is the match between the technology that is there with respect to the business use cases that I have? That's important, isn't it? Otherwise, it is just about fascination. Wow, graphics looks so cool. I type in a prompt and it gives me fantastic images. Fine. That's absolutely fine. Wow factor, but how are you going to generate money out of that? You're getting me, right? So that is the important thing that you guys need to focus on. And that is what the startup mentality of anybody, isn't it? Who are all the successful startups? They are the people who understood the end users, customers very well, and came up with the solutions. Those who think about technology and try to match the technology to the business problems, they may not be so successful because their mindset is tuned towards technology, not towards what the end user wants. Right? Those are the things that decides the successfulness of any particular idea that you might have. Okay. So let us continue. If you have any questions, keep noting down or keep typing it. We'll address it eventually. So underlying thing for all these things, as you can see at the bottom, it is the data, right? All this thing generates a lot of data, right? And that is the core ingredient for all that who are in here in this particular session, right? All of you are data scientists, right? Upcoming data scientists, and you breathe in and breathe out data. And there is tons and tons of data, structured and unstructured. Why, when I started my career back in 2000, it was only structured. Nobody spoke about unstructured. Now it is all amalgamation of everything that is out that you see out here, whether it's images, videos, documents, everything is data. And all these we should be in a position to leverage to have a competitive advantage, right? Let us proceed further. Okay. Now, important aspect in here, we spoke about technology. Now it is time to talk about making money. Where do we make money? That's why businesses are for, right? Why do we make business? Why do we do business? It is to make money, right? All those activities which actually generate some value, is essentially business. That's where commerce originates. The whole purpose of commerce or business is to make money, right? All the companies out there, why are they there? The bottom line is to make money, right? That's the thing, that important thing that we need to understand. People are out there, companies are formed to make money, which means that whatever that we expect from us is to ensure that we offer value to all those roadmaps and the business ideas and the business use cases that they have in place. The technology needs to accelerate the business. Technology needs to optimize the way in which we run business. Technology needs to add value to the way in which we operate business and various operations across the organization, right? Look at it from that matter. Okay. So whether the activity, the concern, the entities and for profit or non-profit, all that they need is generate some value by applying technology. Okay. And another second important point which I'm bringing up here is that every business has a supply chain, right? So there is a material supply chain and there is a digital supply chain, right? So when it comes to the supply chain that we talk about, right? When I'm talking about a material supply chain, the first thing is about how the raw material, you consider a manufacturing entity or a medical science for that matter, any of these physically, product oriented companies has a very typical supply chain that you see on the screen. You need to plan what you are going to produce, and for that plan you need to source the material from various suppliers. Once you source it, you need to make it in your factory. There is a production happens, and then you are going to store it, and logistics comes into picture, transportation comes into picture, and then you deliver it to the customer. And the customer again, he may give you some returns, and again you go back to the demand estimation and forecasting, and again the supply chain keeps running. This is the business cycle of any particular company for that matter, no matter what material or what product that they're manufacturing. And what is important here to understand is that you're applying your analytics and data science in each of these sections. How are you planning? What is your demand forecast for the next quarter? That decides how much you need to buy raw material, from whom you're buying the raw material, from how many suppliers you need to buy, how much you buy. Is it good to depend on one supplier, or do you need to distribute the risk among multiple suppliers? What if one supplier fails to supply you material by the next 1 month or 2 months? What is your contingency plan? Once you get the material, how many factories do you have? How do you distribute the inventory across the factories? How much you need to store in each of the factories? Right? More the inventory that you store, more the the operating cost here, right? Your money is not money. It is lying there in terms of the product, which is not, unless you convert into your product, it will not become a revenue. Right? Inventory planning becomes extremely critical. Then how are you delivering it? What are your optimal routes of delivering the product to the end users or to the distributors? I'll give you one example for that matter, right? So what is the weight of one truck load of soaps for that matter? It's huge. It is like a rock, isn't it? Every soap is a rock, isn't it? What is the truckload of cotton for that matter? It is very, very lightweight, isn't it? But it occupies the same amount of space in both the cases. But one is maybe cheaper, other one is costlier. But how do you mix and match various products in one particular truckload so that the cost that you incur to transport from one place to other place is optimized? Right? Think about the problems of the supply chain that companies like Hindustan Lever, Lays chips that they have in place in terms of how do you load a truck with a mix of products so that there is high value, there's low value, so that the transportation cost that you incur, right, should be less than the overall return that you get by selling those products, isn't it? There's a mix and match. So there's a lot of planning and science goes behind in loading in every truck with the material. You're getting me the practical, the problems of these people, right? We never think about these things, isn't it? When we talk about, delivery, when you go and buy chips, we don't think about all these things. So now, being a data scientist, you need to think about these things. Those are the smaller, problems that bigger business, entities are looking for answers. Right? Change the thought process the way in which you look at the things starting from today. When you go to whether a particular store, whether you read about particular article on what so and so company is doing, whether you talk about digital products for that matter. Next thing we talk about digital supply chain, right? So nowadays in the digital world, The digital product doesn't have a physical entity. Songs, Apple, how does Apple, music, plans out and maintains all those millions of songs out there? Every song is a product for them. You're getting me, right? Now, what does that need to be available in from the point of view of optimization? The moment you click on play this song, how quickly it retrieves and plays the song? What's the model behind? Right? You compare between Netflix and Amazon Prime, which works better in terms of the delivery of the content. I feel Netflix is always far better than Amazon Prime in terms of way in which it renders the content. Why? There goes the optimization behind the scenes. It is about delivering data. How do you optimize the storage and retrieve it and stream it successfully without hindering and providing better experiences, right? These are the things that you need to look at in terms of opportunities and challenges. And let us think about the supply chain from the point of view of the digital supply chain. When we talk about digital supply chain, this is where data comes into picture, right? Just like the physical products which originates in some place and then it keeps moving on from different processes in the manufacturing pipeline, whether it is sources, the manufacturing or delivery, logistics, and reaching out to the customer. Similarly, the data has its own data pipeline, right? It originates somewhere. Then you need to prepare the data, consolidate the data. You need to prepare a data pipeline. You need to ensure that data is cleaned, right? Extraction of the features is necessary, isn't it? Then you need to store it somewhere wherein it is consumable for either it is for analytics, whether it is for data science, whether it's an ML, right? You need to ensure that you provision the data easily out there, and your storage of data could be either on the cloud, on premise, right? The ways in which you consume could be either through reporting tools or whether it is through the custom models that you extract to draw insights into it, right? So data pipeline in itself is a bigger supply chain, and in each of these sections that you see in it here, there is a data that that gets generated, and you need to ensure that the supply chain of data from the point of view of origin till it is getting consumed for insights or for reporting is efficiently managed. And you, being a technical guy, not only need to understand the business side of it, but also need to understand the entire data stream, a lineage, which is extremely important, so that you have a handhold in terms of developing a solution. Typically, one of the problems that we face in the industry is that the moment you are given a problem, okay, you need to develop a model to forecast the demand for so and so product. Then even to gather the needed data in the companies, it takes a quarter, because you don't know what data is there, right? And you don't know whether this is the true data, and you don't even know whether these are all the things do I need for my problem statement. You don't know. You will figure out by probably doing multiple iterations of the solutions, and going back to business with the solution, validating it with the end users, right? All these things takes a lot of time. So even for the companies, it is extremely important that they have a foundation of the data, what I call it is the data physics is extremely very well maintained in terms of how to do it, right? That's the core to it. Let me move on further, right? So the underlying thing from from the point of view of all these business entities is the data. Now let us deep dive into data, right? What I normally call it as is data physics, right? It consists of multiple dimensions. This is the true thing about the data information, knowledge, extraction, data pipeline. You must have thought about it, but data in its essence has a lot of qualities, features. First, let's talk about movement, right? The data pipeline. Data has a facet of movement from, it originates somewhere. You need to gather it. That's where ETL comes into picture, right? Extraction, transformation, and loading comes into picture, and you give it a shape, and then you start consuming it. So data has a movement, a feature called movement. Then comes transformations, right? Data needs to undergo transformations. You need to apply business rules. You need to aggregate the data for the consumption purposes. It has a transformation factor involved in it. Then comes the behavior, right? Data in its entirety, when you look at it from the point of view of the changes over the period of time, it has a lot of patterns. It has a lot of clusters that you can look at it. It has a lot of behavioral trends that you can look at it in terms of the data. There are anomalies for that matter that you can discover, right? So data has another facet in terms of the behavior. Then comes interactions. Data in its entirety has to be together. You need an attribute, you need a dimension, right? You need a metric, you need a fact. All these put together makes a meaningful provides you a meaningful information or insights, right? There are interactions, there are data models that comes into picture, right? Entity relationship, star schema, snowflake schema. We talk about all these things in terms of data, isn't it? Right? All these things and relationships and the models are extremely critical. There's another facet of data. Then comes origin, right? You have the data, and tomorrow if you need additional attributes or columns, where do you go for? Unless you know the origin or the system from where the data originated, then you don't know whom to contact, isn't it? So you need to ensure that the entire data stream or the pipeline are in terms of the lineage of the data, right? Data lineage is an extremely important aspect of it. You need to know where this data, this column originated from, right? Where is this fact is coming from which particular table, and this table came from which particular system, right? Is it an old TP system or another upstream system, a data storage, a database, where it is coming from, right? That information is needed and it is critical. That is where data governance and data lineage, all these systems come into picture. And finally, the potential of data. Data has energy, isn't it? Why would I say data has energy? Because with data, you can do a lot of things. You can take a lot of actions. Data directly or indirectly initiates physical actions. You initiate a manufacturing process because you see there is a demand coming up into picture, right? You initiate an action to probably start a marketing campaign because you have seen some kind of a trends which needs an extensive or maybe aggressive marketing to happen in a particular region. So there's a physical action in there, isn't it? So it has the potential, it has that energy, right? This is how we need to see the data, the movement, the transformation, the behavior, the interactions that it has, the lineage and the origin, and finally you are going to initiate an energy with which the physical transformations, physical actions are getting initiated. That's where perspective, prescriptive analytics comes into picture, wherein you've analyzed, you have drawn all the insights, and then what is the action that needs to be taken care of is something that you're going to prescribe to the business. If you can make that prescription also as an actionable item by invoking AI and IoT, then you have done the end-to-end pipeline. There's no human interaction. It analyzes the data, it identifies the anomalies and the trends, and then also it initiates an action to be taken as well, isn't it? You complete the entire chain of the whole ecosystem of data, origin to action, right? That is where industry is going towards. Okay. So an underlying factor out of all these facets is the business, right? Never ever forget the business. Always try to understand the business, and that is what is going to give you a long run in the industry in your career. So moving further now, having discussed about all those things about data, business, supply chain, digital supply chain, the various facets or the perspectives of the data, right? Now let's look at why it is important to align technology and business. There are very simple, things into this. So I'll try to focus you guys on, you must be knowing about these things. One is about improved, return on investment, right? Investing in the technology directly or indirectly, it needs to address all those business needs, right? Why do I need to invest millions on the UI or ML or a data scientist, right? Why do I start developing or initiating a competency center for analytics? Because I'm expecting some return on investment, right? If it is not giving me returns, then there's no justified investment for that, right? ROI is important. Then comes enhanced end user experience. Who are the people who are going to use the solutions that we are going to develop? It is end user, right? Unless and otherwise your technology or the solution is not meeting the requirements, then its experience is never elevated. Then you will never be able to sponsor the programs that you're going to drive. Then the next thing is about efficiency increasing, right? Efficiency is about how well we do things the way we used to be doing it. Is there an increased efficiency in the way in which we perform? Can you automate the tasks? Right? Can you accelerate the way in which we can perform the task compared to how we used to do yesterday? Can you optimize it much more faster way of doing things so that we can gain competitive advantage? Right? Risk reduction. Again, it is extremely self reduction, explanatory. There are a lot of risks that are associated with businesses, right? Can we explain them in terms of by applying technology, how we can eliminate risks? It could be from the point of view of security. It could be from the point of view of the right product mix that we can offer to the market. There's always a risk in everything that we do. How can we reduce that? right? And the last but not the least, better decision making. How quickly I can make decisions, right? In the competitive world, there are many people who are doing the same businesses. For example, whether there is Zomato or Swiggy, and many things, many players are there in the similar business. Everybody are competing with each other. Who can succeed, right? Who can run for the longer innings in with profitability inside? Are the people who have the best technology applied to the best end user needs, isn't it? We need to understand the customer extremely importantly, and a customer and end user empathy is extremely important. Give what the end user or customer wants, then only he will buy. You may have a super duper product, but if the end user doesn't need it, nobody's going to care about it, isn't it? Right? So keep that in perspective. Moving ahead, right? Identifying the business use case. So having discussed about the benefits and the business and the data physics and everything, now how do you identify business use cases, right? We spoke about how do you get aligned yourself, keep thinking about the business, read about the passionate areas of business that is close to your heart, and then you need to apply these techniques, right? Brainstorming techniques, right? How do you identify business use cases? You have a super duper technology and a skill in terms of writing or developing data models, algorithms, insights and everything, but what is that business use case where you want to apply it? What is that business case which is important for the company that you're working for so that they can get the benefits of your solution? The brainstorming techniques is extremely important. You need to attend workshops, whether it is in-house or external. Understand how people are applying technologies, right? Understand the customer behavior. Talk to the customer. Survey is also an extremely important aspect of it, right? Feedback analysis, isn't it? So the feedback analysis is extremely important, whether you're using ChatGPT or Gemini, or for that matter, any of the chatbots or the customer center calls, they always ask for the feedback. They record your conversations, right? Gemini, whenever you type in a prompt, it will ask you whether did I satisfy, thumbs up, thumbs down. All these things matter because they want to improve upon it, right? And that basically drives your subsequent roadmap, technical roadmap, in terms of how do you consider the feedback provided and again fine tune your solution. The next thing is about focus on business challenges. What are the challenges that the business is facing? We need to talk to the people for that, right? Go and talk to the business users, right? We have provided you this solution. Why do you need this solution? What are the challenges that you're facing so that I can deeply understand and probably optimize the solution, right? And what are the opportunities that you see? Every problem that you see is an opportunity, and very rarely people, address the challenges, right? If there is a problem, people say it's a problem. How many of us are ready to go and sort out the problem and identify solutions? The moment you get into that mindset, especially in the professional and the corporate world, then you will be the most needed guy in the organization. That's how you elevate and exceed the performance levels set for you. Okay. And the next thing is about prioritizing the use cases based on what? Feasibility, impact, and the resource availability. Right? How do you do that prioritization? There may be 10 or 15 use cases, but which is the best use case or the most needed use case for you, the one which gives you the best ROI, which is needed, critical for the business, isn't it? That's how even when you come to corporate world, the people do the prioritization task. How do they do it? It's based on the business, the value it generates. If you can articulate to them the amount of value that it generates and the kind of impact that it can create, then the higher number of chances that your idea will be implemented first, right? That's where the communication and soft skills, influencing skills comes into picture. And now we can gain the confidence in each of these is by understand the business well. How do you go and propose it? Because if you don't have the understanding of the business behind, you'll not be in a position to confidently put forward your thoughts and the use cases, isn't it? So it's extremely important that you understand that. And of course, these are the examples. There are a lot of things. Whether you want to automate marketing campaigns, whether you want to automate the chatbot. Many of the chatbot that you have seen traditionally in any of the websites you go, it can only go towards mirror one or two conversations. After that, it will say, "Give me your number. I'll will somebody will contact you back." Right now, it's the time wherein you can leverage generative AI to make it even more human in terms of the interactions. Right. Of course, people have started doing it, but we need to wait and see how the customers are going to accept it. All of you must have, got a call one or two times, or maybe in every day for that matter. The voice sounds like a human voice. It keeps watching, hello, hello, are you there? The moment you start responding, it'll, blah 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 blah. It gives you the message, and then it doesn't isn't you. It is just a human voice. Right. So how does the customers tend to take these things? We have to wait and watch. right? And you must have seen about the OpenAI's 4O, right? Omni model, wherein is extremely, intelligent in terms of human-like conversations that you can have. Imagine if that comes into picture in terms of having customer support, then many of us are not needed, especially in the customer support, area, right? So that's where, we need to look at right technology, right use case, so that you bring in and create a kind of fantastic ROI for the company. So moving forward, now what I have in here is about, I'll start from the first one, right? So here, how do we assess technology solutions? Okay. So the first thing is about evaluating existing technology. So you're trying to assess the technology that is available to you in front of you, and you also know the business. Then how do you go through certain steps in accessing the technology solutions? The first thing is about evaluating the existing technologies. Right, you have certain skills, you have certain algorithms for that matter, you have certain, analytics tools for that matter. Right? Is it good enough for you to address the solution? You need to make that an assessment, identify all these things, existing technologies. The next thing is about consider the potential new technologies that are out there. Is it good to invest them? Is it good to recommend them? How do you recommend them? Even if you want to do it, we need to do a proof of concept, right? You just can't go there and say, okay, let's invest in a couple of $100,000 or so and bring in the technology. Then you find it that is not useful. We can't do that. So let us do some previous proof of concepts. Consider the potential, value that the new technology brings in. Then you are going to add in more and more value. Then the next thing is about the features and the functionalities and integration capabilities. How does it align with the existing technology solutions that you have already? Right, you already have a major application running. Maybe you are building an add-on feature into the major application that you have. Is it easy to integrate? What are the difficulties in that? Right, those are the things. And the next thing is about explore factors in terms of security, scalability, sustainability. All these are important, right? So at the end of the day, even if the solution is something which is extremely very good, but if it is not, let's say if it is too expensive, then the return of then the generated value the management may not consider, right? So you need to keep in mind all these factors in terms of the kind of projects or use cases that you take it up, so that you are very well informed in terms of debating or put forwarding your thoughts and ideas in terms of why your solution is the best solution. Even when it comes to for all your projects that you're going to do in your college, right, consider these factors, right? When in the interviews, majority of the times what happens is that when we try to deep dive into the projects, these are the areas where people lack, because they would have started off taking up something because someone else has taken up, right? And one common theme that we see is that if somebody does the project more or less, we see the same thing in all the resumes or majority of the resumes. Don't do that, right? Spend some time, seek help where you need, right? There are mentors out there, there are people whom you can see, reach out to people in LinkedIn or anywhere, ask that I want to do that, do you have a problem statement? There's nothing wrong in asking. There are only two outcomes. The person will give you, I mean, not give you. That's fine. There's nothing wrong in asking, isn't it? A lot of people out there do reciprocate. They do give you help. They do offer you the use cases. It's just about asking, right? And then understand these, the dimensions of the problem statement, so that you are foolproof in terms of the project that you do. You must be industry ready, right? That's how you're going to be highly competitive, and you score higher points compared to the other people in the industry and other students among the people who are competing with you. So let's proceed further. The next thing is about bridging the gap between technology and business. Of course, how are you trying to bridge the gap? If you remember the first slide, we need to collaborate, right? The first and the foremost thing is about fostering the communication and the collaboration between business and IT stakeholders. We need to talk to business. Either the initiative is from the technology or from the business. The collaboration and communication is extremely necessary. We need to to be able to understand the requirements, and they need to be in a position to leverage the technology, and there has to be a close relationship and handshake that needs to happen. Then once you figure out the technology and the business use cases, then comes the translation of business requirements into technical specifications, right? And this is a very important aspect in the entire project that you go with, right? The business requirements understanding leads to a lot of things that you might have to initiate in the technical landscape. It could start right from the creation of a data model. entity relationships, identifying where does the data reside. Is it there in my enterprise data warehouse, or is it something, a new stream that is available in one of the old TP systems that I need to build a data pipeline? Right. Once, if the data is there, then what is the state of it? What is the quality that it has? Right. What need to be, massaged, or what needs to be cleansed? All these things comes into picture in terms of preparing the data for your business requirements, isn't it? That's an important aspect of it. And then comes, once you have the product ready and you implement it, then the change management happens. So change management is where, you should be in a position to keep adding in your features, right? Your business requirements should be able to incorporate. You need to scale the solution without impacting the core functionality, right? These are the things that you need to consider while designing the solution. Any additional features should be easily adaptable and integratable to the existing solution. And then comes, of course, the what are the success, the criteria. The moment you accept on a particular project, first thing that you need to agree upon is the moment the requirements are clear, how are we going to conclude this project? What is the definition of success? Right? Have you succeeded in delivering this product? How do you define that? Is it by looking at certain success criteria statements? Is it by looking at, demonstrating the reports or the insights that you have generated by, giving them to the business and then taking a trial and seeing that it is actually working? What is the success criteria definition? That's extremely important, right? Even for you, when you do your project, what is the success criteria? When you think that you have completed your project? Is it that after you complete the coding and you can see the input and output and then, seeing the results, or what is the outcome of the results, where these results can be applied into? Is there somebody looking for this? You're getting me, right? That defines the success criteria. And sometimes we might be just redoing what others have done it, but what are the value add that you brought in, addressing the same use case? What is the differentiating factor that you're bringing in? What is that value add that you are bringing into that statement? That becomes critical. Okay, so moving further, so this is the 5, action plan steps for you guys. Okay. The first and the foremost thing is about, let me, go for the first one. It conducts user research and business need validation. So each one of you may have different plans for your career. So some of you might be thinking about startups. Some of you might be thinking about, finding out, one of those, lucrative jobs in the MNC, Fortune 500 companies, right? Whatever be the thing, right? You need to demonstrate your knowledge. How do you demonstrate your knowledge? That is why showcasing your skill in terms of the projects that you're going to work on in your semester exams, or after the courses, or wherever it is, it has to be demonstrable, right? You may say that you know Python, or you may say that you're good in data science, but unless it is demonstrated, right, how do the people know that it is the skill that you have? Right. Of course, there are tests in terms of algorithms and everything, data structure. They may test you, but gaining that edge in terms of the personal interview, these are the things that comes into picture in terms of what have you done apart from your studies that you stand out of the 100 folks out there for the 5 job requirements that are there. You're getting me, right? So do that research, do the research in the market in terms of what are the available use cases, projects that you can take it up. Right. Then comes, developing a minimum viable product. Out of the bigger use case that you think this is a project I want to do, right? What is your minimal viable product? Right. Let's say you want to do something like Instagram, but you can't, it's humanly impossible for one person to go and develop everything in one shot, right? So pick up one use case out there. Maybe profiling, maybe, you know, extracting all the user comments of one particular account and then doing a sentiment analysis, right? So how do you come up with your minimum viable product and do a project? That is what proof of concept is all about, right? Wherein you're demonstrating the value that your product or the algorithm is delivering. Then comes communicating clearly and effectively, right? So the moment you deliver, you develop your product or a model, then how clearly are you able to articulate the technology, the technical, you know, expertise that you are demonstrated or used, or at the same time, how are you mapping your technology or the algorithms to the business so that you can highlight why the solution is important. Sometimes it is just for technical gratification, that is absolutely fine. But ultimately, how are you tying it back to the practical use cases that are out there? right? That needs some kind of a business knowledge to be gained. That's where you need to focus on your passionate areas of business, wherein you can keep reading, and then I look at opportunities or the data analytics use cases that the people are working on, so that you can gain more and more knowledge. Okay, and of course the fourth one is about measurable outcomes. How are you going to measure your outcomes? And then about the long-term trajectory of scalability and sustainability of the product, right? So whenever you pick up any particular project use case, think about these 5 action items, okay, which is important for you. Okay, let me go to the next one. Yeah, so this is the last but one slide. We are almost 5 minutes over the allocated time. So there are many models and algorithms in AI and ML. We all know about it, right? You guys are studying, and you all are probably the going to be the experts in the next few months, right? But one important question that you need to ask yourself is, what's your algo for your success? Have you thought about it? Right? Everybody wants to be successful, right? But what is your trick? What is your algorithm for your own success? Have you figured out that? So that is a thought that you need to have, right? With that, I end this conversation. And, of course, when I share these slides with you, I'll share a few of the things in terms of, the use case which I have for you to ponder about, right? So any questions now?
So guys, we're opening the floor for questions. Please feel free to raise your hands, or you can type your question in the chat box down below, and sir will answer them. Yes, so we have a question from Kireeti. You can go ahead and ask the question.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. Either you can
Good
type
evening,
in,
sir.
or you can, yeah, go ahead. Okay, yeah, that's the best thing. Go ahead.
Good evening, sir. Sir, actually, I wanted to ask that in the course of learning data science, what should we keep in mind to be success in the industry level? Like, what should be our main focus on rather than the course curriculum? And what projects, on what topic we should make projects, real life projects that would help us a lot in industry?
Thank you for that asking that question, right? So there are your question actually covers a lot of things, right? To be successful, there are different, success means different things for different people, right? So the moment you complete the course, rather, of course, for you, the important thing is to, maybe one person is looking at getting a job in a good company. Other person maybe he wants to, start his own startup. Let us look at, majority of the people, don't have the fat in the belly to, dive and take the risk to start a company. But let us say that you want to join, a good company. You want to secure a job. So what is important? As I told you, the important aspect is about how do you demonstrate your skill, right? Typically, what happens in the organizations is that there is a selection process in terms of this resume screening happens. Fortunately and unfortunately, most of the ways in which it happens is by marks, right? I don't agree with that. There are a lot of people who are successful in the company, including myself, have never scored good marks, right? At the same time, there are a lot of people who score good marks and they don't do well in the industry. Okay, so it's a double-edged sword in either way. But the most important thing is that what wins always is the skill. Focus on building the solid skill. That is a foundation, right? And skill means there are different things in where what comes to skill. One is your proficiency in the aspects that you're targeting. Data science being the topic of discussion today, how proficient you are in applying Python or R on various algorithms that you have, right? You should be extremely good at identifying the entire, the best algorithm for the best use case, and you should be knowing the pros and cons of why certain algorithm you're being applying for whatever the use case that you have, right? And at the same time, you should be in a position to understand the importance of data engineering that plays in the entire data science as well, right? You should be in a position to, apply the data engineering skills to transform the data, clean the data, and prepare the data as well to perform data science activities. And last but not the least, you should be very good at communicating, right? You should have the right vocabulary to talk, the right vocabulary to explain the data science in the data science terminology, and at the same time some amount of the business knowledge in the areas in which you're focusing your projects on. so that it'll give them. See, industry doesn't expect the students to know everything, but they expect them to know or have a right attitude, the inquisitiveness to know things, the simplicity of saying I don't know something, right? Most of those are the key
Yes,
things,
sir.
right? The attitude, right attitude is extremely important, and show that demonstrated skill in terms of your inquisitiveness, your effort that you put in, the eagerness to learn, self-learning capability, right? These are the
Yes,
things
sir.
I can put it up at the high level. Yeah.
Sir, I wanted to ask one more thing.
Mhm.
Sir, as a fresher, it would be good for us to start working with small scale or very small scale companies. Uh, like it
Mhm.
would help for us to develop from small.
See, when it comes to uh, skill acquisition, right? When it comes to gaining experience, it doesn't matter whether it's a company is small or big. Okay, the differencing
Okay.
factor is only in terms of the pay package, right?
Yes, sir.
And the scale at which you look at implementations. But learning can happen anywhere.
Yes.
More learning is in small companies than in the bigger companies, because in the smaller companies you will be doing end to end yourself. In the bigger companies, you might be only looking at probably developing a model. You may not be looking at engineering and data, other aspects of it. But in small companies, you will do everything end to end. You will go to the production system and deploy the component. But in bigger companies, you don't do that. Somebody else will do that, right?
Yes,
Don't
sir.
worry
Yes, sir.
about the whether the company is big or small. See whether the work that you're targeting is passionate and close to your heart.
Okay,
Okay,
sir.
don't do
Yes.
something just because someone else is doing it. See whether it is passionate to you. But the moment there is passion, nobody needs to motivate you. You are already self motivated because it's passion.
Yes, sir.
You're getting it right. So
Mm.
important thing for you is skill acquisition, technical and soft skills, and to an extent read about business,
Okay,
right?
sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Welcome. Any other questions?
So we do have a question in the chat by Shreyash Gulhane. Can you please explain any interesting data pipeline project that you have worked on, sir?
Okay, so when it comes to data pipeline, it means different things to different people, right? So let me take it from the point of view of consolidation of data from various sources. So I can talk about in my earlier company, being a manufacturing company. I worked for 12 years in Intel and a supply chain analytics, where the one of the use cases that I have is the what I have it in the backup slide. And thanks for asking that. So let me go to the slide. Can you guys see the slide coming up?
Yes, sir, it's
Right?
visible.
Yeah. So let me quickly touch base on this use case. Thanks for asking the question. Right. So here, Intel being a manufacturing organization, wherein what does Intel manufacture? Computer chips. Right. So they need to procure, as if you remember the mental picture of the supply chain, you have the planning, you have sourcing, you have manufacturing, then you have logistics, and then comes the selling piece of it, right? So if the moment you need to buy something from the supplier, what you need to do, you need to know how much to buy. Planning, demand planning comes into picture. The moment you buy something, where does it go and store? Right, supplier sends it to the distributor sends it to the factory warehouse, and there is a factory close to the factory warehouse, right? This is a very simple aspect where you consider you have only one factory, and each factory has an in-house warehouse, and there is a warehouse which is close to the factory, and there is a distributor who supplies it to you, and there is a supplier who sends it to the distributor. This is the entire supply chain of the material movement. Now, the data pipeline problem here is about gathering the data to do inventory analysis, right? I have a problem in my hand in terms of forecasting the demand for the next quarter, how much chips they need to manufacture. Okay, that is a simple statement. Now, what I need to do, I need to know how much what should be the demand forecast that my model should be providing for the factory to plan and procure the goods or the raw material. Let's assume that I want to manufacture 1 million computer microprocessors. Now, I need various raw material. There are various suppliers. right? And there are a number of suppliers who supply to me. Now, how much to order from each of these suppliers? Here, it's a very simplified version where I have one supplier. There are, let's assume there are 100 suppliers. That's a use case that we had. There are hundreds of suppliers to supply. How much to order from each of those suppliers? Should I depend on one supplier or two suppliers or three suppliers? How much I should be ordering with each of the supplier for the quantity which I need? Then where should I, store it? Whether to should I ask the distributor to store on behalf of me so that I give him some rent so that he can keep everything in his place and whenever I need it, he can ship it to the factory? How much I should be storing in the factory so that I immediately, keep, pushing that inventory for the manufacturing. If I store everything at the distributor center, there is a time lag between the requirement and it means that, I need to ship it in out here, right? So if you look at it and if you extrapolate this problem, I have, three more factories in different cities in the US. Now, my problem is, multifold. Now, complexity has increased. How much I should store in each of these warehouses and distributors and suppliers, right? So this is a data pipeline problem for me. This is a how do I integrate the data for my problem statement in terms of collating the requirements for each of these? Each and every product may have its own capacity, right? It may have its own manufacturing, velocity for that matter. Each and every warehouse has its own capacity to store. Every supplier has his own stock. He may have stock, may not have stock. Now, to do the problem statement, to predict, I need to gather the data from all these things, right? Should I gather the data real time, or should I schedule my data pipeline job to run every day or every week, every month? What is the granularity of the data that I need? Should I host all the data on the cloud or on-prem? You got what I mean, right? So there are various things that you need to consider. This is one of the things. And in the current company where I'm working, it's even a bigger problem. Just to give you the scale at which Intel operates. When I was in Intel 6.5 years ago, their entire data warehouse size was about 150 terabytes. Now I work for Visa. One table size is 140 terabytes. I'm not talking about the entire data warehouse. It's in petabytes for that matter. Now look at the scale. There are millions of transactions that happens using credit cards and debit cards, right? And what is the scale at which you can actually gather the data and make the data available for the end users? If my ETL pipeline job runs for about let's say 8 hours, 12 hours, then there is a lag in terms of how quickly you can draw intelligence out of that data and give it to the end users, right? Do I store on-prem or do I go to cloud? What is the security aspect of it? Right, all these things comes into the complexities of the data pipeline. Hope I answered your question at the high level. Of course, if you want to get into deeper for the entire nitty-gritties of the project, it needs another session. I would love to do that, but maybe sometime later. Yeah, good question. Thank you for asking that. So there are a few more questions typed. Nikhil, you want to
Yes,
yeah, which
definitely,
one
sir.
should I
I
take?
think
Yeah.
we have time for one last question. So we have a question from Sahad. I think we can take that. How can I start my career in supply chain? Where do I start from? What is the basis? Which job post should I start from at the entry level? And which sector is better to start from? Which states or cities has more in demand? So I guess Sahad's question is how to start his career in supply chaining and where he should start from. So, sir, if you could shine some light on that.
Absolutely. Sahad, thank you and appreciate your thought process that you're already, looking at an interesting area called supply chain, right? So supply chain problems or, scope exists in all these e-commerce. At the moment, any city for that matter, Bangalore is a hub. You can go to Hyderabad or to Chennai for that matter, right? And wherever there are e-commerce website, the companies located, they deal with, all the supply chain issues, whether it is Amazon, whether it is Swiggy, whether it is Ola, any of the manufacturing companies for that matter, right? They all deal with supply chain issues. You can target any of these companies for that matter. And the best place to find out jobs is, where else than, LinkedIn or, other job sites, right? LinkedIn is more popular. You have Naukri. And most important thing is try connecting to the people who are in that area, right? In the LinkedIn, to start developing the network in LinkedIn right from day one, right? All of you should have an LinkedIn profile and keep posting on the work that you keep doing it because LinkedIn profile is something that doesn't originate in a day or a night. It takes a lot of time to create a solid profile of all your accomplishments, right? What are the project? What are the presentations? Put it in there, let the people know about it, You're trying to create your own personality. You're trying to create your own brand out there, saying that this is what I am, right? This is what I'm doing, right? How do people know about it? By looking at your resume or by looking at the profile, right? Sometimes it is extremely difficult to, we may think that I'm so and so person, but how do you communicate to the other external world? It needs communication. That's extremely difficult to convey. Is it? I'm a good person, but how do you tell the other person that you're a good person? If you go and tell him, hey, I'm a very good person, will the people trust you? It needs actions, right? Continuous, consistent action. Similarly, yeah, your profile and everything that you gather, it needs time for you to build that confidence to the people when you look at it. So start, approaching all this manufacturing or the logistics companies for that matter, e-commerce companies for that matter. So that those are the the companies that you should be targeting. So any other question? I can stay for longer if you guys are okay. If you guys are free, I can stay longer. Yeah. So let me know if you have any other
Definitely,
question.
sir.
Yeah.
We do have a few more questions.
Mhm.
So, Virendra Jain asks, you presented the idea of building solutions on a micro level and making it scalable. But when we move to a macro level, it's hard to validate that certain solutions might not work. So, what's your idea on it? Any advice?
So there is some ambiguity in the question. So what I read here is that the idea of building solutions on micro level and make it scalable. But when we move to the macro level, so I need the definition of macro level here. So the micro and macro, as I see, is that the minute level of detail in terms of application development is what the micro level is all about, right? You pick up one particular business use case, which is we spoke about inventory management. That is at micro level. That's just the idea or a problem statement that I have. Macro level is about, okay, manufacturing industry overall put together, how does the inventory management happens? Is that what the question is about? Virender, if you can speak out, it will be easy for me to specifically answer those points.
Virendra Jain, can you, if you're in the meet, can you please unmute
Yeah, yeah.
yourself? Yeah.
Hello, sir. So
Yeah,
the
go ahead.
idea is when we work on the data side, if we are creating a solution, for example, for a small company or for a small set of problem statements, but if we want to make it validated for a larger chunk of data or larger chunk of problem, how do we go with that? Because
Got you.
for a micro
Got you.
level, it's easy.
Got you, Virendra. Yeah. I think there's a disturbance. You can mute your phone. Yeah. So I got you. So what you're to meant is that, I develop a particular demand, let's assume in the inventory optimization solution for a one particular company at one particular business unit or a use case. Now, how do I scale this application or a solution to the entire industry? Right. So that needs a bigger perspective of generalizing your solution, because when we talk about specific business use case and problem statements, you are fine tuning your approach and thought process and the problem and approach and the solution to meet that particular business requirements. The moment you want to generalize your solution, that's where it is important that you understand the entire business to which you're catering to. At the macro level, you're offering it as a service, right? Data science or a particular demand forecasting as a service, let's assume. Then it becomes, you need to focus on one particular business domain to cater to them. You're getting it, right? So it becomes a generalized solution, which becomes, a kind of a configurable solution. So wherein the input parameters or variables that you're trying to consider, right? It has to be a kind of a wizard kind of an output, wherein you go through the different questions. What is that you want to analyze? These are the things. Keep answering the questions. And finally, okay, this is a model and solution that is suitable for you. This is how ERP, business, the softwares and implementations work, right? So it has to be a configurable solution. The moment you want to generalize it, you need to configure it so that your solution is applicable for one or more companies. For example, HR analytics. People provide it as a package. There are standard set of things that it does. But anything beyond that, which is specific to your company, then comes a customization aspect of it, wherein you need to work with the vendor to get it customized. Okay? Yeah,
Okay, sir. Thank you so much for the answer.
no problem. Yeah. Any other things? Did we answer other things in the chat, Nikhil?
Yes, we do have a few more questions, sir. Zara here asks, can you shed some light on how a company making web solutions for businesses, let's say restaurants, can scale into making data-intensive applications for their customers? Example, recommendation systems. Zara, if you're in the meet, can you unmute yourself and explain the question, please?
I'm asking this question from a perspective of a company who is into IT but is naive about how data works and have zero data infrastructure and knowledge regarding it. How can they scale into making data applications based on data?
And you're specifically looking at, an example of a restaurant,
Yeah.
right? So you're looking at how can a company, making web solutions for businesses, let's say, you're making websites for restaurants, can scale into making data intensive applications. So when we talk about data intensive applications, there are two sides to it. One is the web applications being able to handle high data intensity in terms of the volume. That is one way of looking at data intensity. The other thing is about maybe you have so much of data, then are you looking at gaining insights to the data that you already have it, right? Being a data science, I believe the second portion of it is what you're looking at, but I can answer both the questions. First, let's take into account the company making a web solutions for businesses like restaurants. And when it comes to data intensity, the scalability is extremely important. When we're talking about data intensity, it is two things. One is about the web applications being able to handle huge amount of traffic, right? In Amazon, there are millions of users who hit a website on a day-to-day basis. So look at the kind of data traffic that the site can handle. Imagine Netflix across the globe. They have multiple tenants, distributed architecture of deploying Netflix at different geographies. In India, when we access Netflix, it is hitting a different data center, right? There are millions of hits that are happening for a particular movie. How can they ensure the quality of the streaming across all those users happens seamlessly without any issues? So when it comes to all these data intensive rendering, whether it is data based applications or video, whatever the businesses that are into, the hardware plays an extremely important role. Your data center should be highly optimized. You need to have a solid processing and compute power to cater to those many number of users. So how we can do that? You need to simulate that environment and validate the applications. How do you simulate? There are tools available in the market wherein, given a website, you can simulate the website being accessed by, let's say, 1 lakh users at one go. Can your hardware sustain that? Can your application servers and web servers sustain that? Or is it going to crash? You can validate that. There are tools that can simulate it. That is what we normally call it as stress testing or crash testing, right? That is one way of looking at it. The other way of looking at making data intensive applications, if I look at it from the other angle, can we leverage data and make insights? Of course, you can do that. There are a lot of companies. If you guys have time, go and search about AI palette. AI palette. These people are into restaurant and food making business. They have an AI based solution to suggest people what should be the next food item that they should be trying. For example, Domino's keeps changing the flavors of the pizzas, right? They introduce it. How, on what basis they take a call that this is a new pizza flavor that I'm introducing, without analyzing the probability of that succeeding and failing. There has to be some data behind that to take a decision, isn't it? Because it's going to be an extremely costly, affair for them to backtrack that, one flavor out of all the stores in India, because there is a raw material needed for that, ingredients needed for that, everything goes for waste, right? Yeah. I hope I answered your question, Zara.
Yes, that was very insightful. Thank you, Preeti.
Sir, so I think we can take one last question for today. Pratham asks us, what should be the right time to stop exploring other fields and choose a specific field? For example, let's say supply chain. What should we do if we have an interest in more than just one field?
Good question, Pratham. Thanks for thinking in those lines. So yeah, so see, there are two models that the people talk about in terms of how do you pick and choose where you want to go, right? There is a T model and there is a pi model. Imagine the type, the letter T, and imagine the pi, 22 by 7, right? Not the 22 by 7, the pi symbol, right? There are two, the pi symbol looks like that, right? So there are two, pillars coming down, and then the T, there is, one pillar coming. So what you go in case of a T model, you go deeper into one area and spread your wings across. That is a T model, right? In case of a pi, you pick up two fields which is passionate to you, go deeper into those fields, and then spread your wings across, right? But how do you decide which is that one or two fields that you are passionate about? right? That is where you need to introspect in terms of which is that area which is close to your heart, which is that which doesn't make you sleep, but rather keep innovating, right? That is that you need to do an introspection, right? If someone else is doing it, is it drawing you to there? But is it that, you have your own personal, interest in certain areas that is passionate about it? Always chase the passion, because you don't have to get external motivation. You get intrinsically motivated if you're passionate about it. Nobody has to tell Virat Kohli to practice batting. That is, he sleeps and, drinks and eats batting, isn't it? At the same time, if there's someone asks us to don't do the batting at this time, are we interested in doing it? No, right? Because that's not our cup of tea. We are made to do something else, right? So what is that you're made to do? What is that you're, interested in? Figure out that. Spend some weeks or, days thinking about which area is passionate to you. Catch that area and go deeper into that. This is your passion. But at the same time, when you get a job, you may not be getting into the same area where you're passionate about. That's what is the give and take happens, right? It is okay to compromise, to learn certain other areas while you keep practicing your area of passion. Let's assume that your area of passion is in supply chain analytics, but you end up in, let's say, fintech as a company where you got a job, but you can keep continuing to learn. The technology is the same. It's just that application is different, right? Hone those skills in terms of what all is needed for you. The company is offering you a good package, and yeah, there is an environment for you to learn, use the resources, use it. At the same time, you keep, chasing your passion, and then when the time comes, switch over to your area of passion, right? And one thing that always remember, that whatever you learn on the job, whether it is up to your, interest or not, but it'll help you in some point of time in your career, right? You may not be the, the most interested guy in terms of, just give me 1 minute. Yeah, you may not be the most interested guy in terms of, let's say you got some, automated testing job, QA testing. Maybe not passionate about it. Maybe it's a mundane job for you. But eventually, when you become an architect down the line, 10 years down the line, you need someone to do that for you, right? If you have already worked on it, it'll make it easy for you to guide that person as to how to do it, right? So see it from that bigger picture. That's what spreading the wings is all about, right? You might be deeper into one particular thing, but you should also know what is happening around. So if the first 2 to 3 years, don't worry, whatever be the job, just grab it, put your heart and soul into it, and learn the nitty-gritties of what you're doing. But always keep in mind, you are chasing your passion. Don't leave out that, because eventually you want to get into that, isn't it? Right? So all these things you gain, and with that, your positive aspect is moving into where you want to continue for the rest of the 20 years of career. So that's how you should plan. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
No problem. So Nikhil, we are good. I think we answered all the
Yes,
questions. Did
yes.
we miss anything in the, there is one question, what is that? Current data engineer doing certification. There's one by, how do you pronounce the name? Gregory?
Gregory, yes, sir.
Gregory.
So,
Yeah, Gregory has a good question.
Gregory,
Yeah.
yes. So, Gregory is asking us, as a current data engineer, do you think cloud certifications help to advance your career within the domain? Also, how do you transition from data engineering to data science over time? Thank you.
Awesome. See, certifications are like, degree certificates. Okay. And what matters is skill, ultimately. Okay. So if you're from IIT, IIM, the gates are open for you. You don't have to chase the companies to get an offer. You will be given an offer because you're already from a good institutions. But after you get a job, from that day onwards, what matters is not from which institute you came from, what skill you possess. Okay, the brand IIT can help you to an extent, but after that, it is the skill which is important. So chase acquisition of skills. And how do you chase it? Of course, one way is to do certification. Certification doesn't mean that you know everything. When you do the certification, the important thing that you do in the certification is the kind of capstone projects that you do. Right? Do something which is practical in nature, which will elevate your skill in the competitive world, wherein you have an edge in terms of knowing the depth and, the breadth of the technology or the problem statement that you worked on. Okay, chase that in a big. Certifications are good, of course, because it will make you sit and, focus on one particular technology for, certain weeks or months is extremely good. Go for it. Right. Again, you need to be very particular about whether you want to, get into Azure or AWS. right? Make a choice in terms of what makes you, better. So many companies are in AWS, many companies are in Azure. Nowadays it is Azure because of the edge that Microsoft has in terms of OpenAI collaboration and Copilots and GPTs. They have an edge. Otherwise, it is AWS as well, right? Go with, both, any of those, you chase it in terms of what you need. But more or less, the cloud concepts remains the same. It is a technology which varies in terms of underlying it. And to come to your second question, how do you transition from engineering to data science? It's very easy. At the same time, it is tough. Data engineering, you need to be good at Python, understand the data models, right? And transformation and ETL processes that you need to work on. But data science, you need to go to the next level. You need to know statistics, right? Everybody who knows Python thinks that he's a data scientist. That's a wrong thing, right? You need to be good at statistics. Okay. Most of the solid or professional data scientists are statisticians rather than the people who know Python, right? Of course they know Python, but it is more of a statistic. I'll give you one problem statement. Okay, if you can figure out a solution for this, you're a data scientist for sure to start with. Let's assume that me being in a visa for that matter, right? So I'm interested in proliferating cards to various merchants. I go to a kirana shop, he doesn't accept card, but he accepts UPI. Okay. I go to a pani puri selling vendor who makes, there are people, I'm not joking, like there are people who make 1 lakh and 2 lakh rupees of, worth of sell pani puri in a day, right? But he doesn't accept cards. Okay. At the same time, there are many kirana shops who make, lakhs of businesses in a day, but they don't accept cards. Now, my problem statement is I need to proliferate and sell them the POS machines so that they start accepting cards. How do I pick and choose these people out of the data which is available to me, that he is a guy who has an extreme high potential transactions, but I don't have visibility because they don't accept cards. So in Visa, I'm not capturing any of those cards, right? I don't even know that the business exists. But still, how do I, capture these business entities and come up with the probability that these are well-to-do businesses? How do I do that? Think about it, right? You can think about, see, if I don't have the data about that business because they don't use Visa cards and neither any of the competitive cards for that matter, but they have a social media presence. Every business has a Google presence. People are eager to get Google ratings, right? If the probability or a consistency of somebody getting 4 stars or 5 stars, frequency of people, giving their cards as more than, which means that the business is going good, right? There are ways of figuring it out, right? Now, how do you arrive at the probability of someone being a high value merchant based on the social media presence? Figure out, right? It is not just a simple select star, right? You need to go beyond, apply some statistical methodology or formula, or figure out data extraction from somewhere, and you need to come up with a probability theory, right? So you need to be good at some kind of statistics, right? Inferential statistics for that matter. So you need to be, consistently keep doing something on a day-to-day basis, right? You can't just read and say that I want to become a data scientist. No, practice is important. Okay, data scientists are practitioners. There's no end to them. You see, there are a few professions we call it that they're practicing. Chartered accountants are practicing. They say that what are you doing? I'm practicing chartered accountant. Doctors, they're practicing doctors because they keep doing it, right? You can't say that I've come out of MBBS and I can do everything. No, this disease invention keeps happening, diseases keeps coming in, the modalities of viruses keeps changing, and so you keep practicing it. And similarly, data scientist is a practitioner. Okay, get into that mindset. Okay, hope I answered that question. There are a few more. Okay, yeah,
So,
thanks. Yeah, Google reviews location of a business extremely good. So people are smart in here, right? Location-based analytics, whether they are in a busy location, they are located in, let's say you guys are maybe in Chennai, whether they're located in T Nagar, whether they're located in maybe in the outskirts of Chennai, that gives you, the population intensity around the merchant, right? How many competitors are around? You can extract the Google, geography, statistics, and then figure out. Absolutely. Yeah. I think we have answered all the questions. Nikhil, thank you so much for moderating. Hope are there any questions? Can we end?
No, sir. There are no other questions from the audience. So I think that'll be all for now. Thank you so much for joining us here today and sharing so many insightful facts and advices to all of us. So thank you for your time. Thank you for your wisdom and advice, sir. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. So let us keep in touch, and all the best to all you guys. I know many of you have connected, to me in LinkedIn. I look forward to interacting with you. Feel free to, discuss anything and anything. You can, just post in your, questions or anything that you want to know about, right? So in my free time, I would definitely be able to answer those questions, right?
Just
I
a
keep
quick
saying
question,
this
Preeti.
I keep saying this to many people in many of these interactions, but very rarely people approach me. There's the other side of it. Okay, there was someone saying something.
Yes, it's me, Zara.
Yeah, Zara, tell me.
Yeah, so the connection got cut off for a little while. The one of the tools you told me for restaurant and AI was AI palette. Is
Oh
that
yeah, yeah,
all?
yeah, yeah, palette. Yeah.
So is that's the only one you told?
Sorry, is that the only one? What's it?
You told.
I didn't get you.
Is that the only tool you suggested?
It is not a tool, it's a company name, right? And it's a purely AI and data science based companies wherein their clients are all these big food chain and restaurants. Basically they reach out to them to know the next big successful trending product that they can roll out in terms of the menu. For example, remember during the pandemic there was this gondola coffee something came up, right? Yeah, so they were the people who predicted that it's going to become viral in a way, right? So just Google AI palette and go about and see what they do in their website. Let me see if I can actually give that to you guys right away.
I opened it. I was surfing through it.
Sorry.
Yes, I went to the website and I
Yeah,
was.
Accelerate Food and Beverage, right?
Yes.
That is that. Yes. And by the way, he was my colleague, right? He was he was from IIT Bombay, if I'm not wrong. He joined as a fresher in our team, and he was with Visa for 2 years. We didn't know that he had a plan, and in the meantime, he figured out an algorithm, and he started his company. And he has a location in US, India, and Singapore. He's just, I would say about 8 years after college. Yeah. So all that you need is a good idea and fire in the belly to chase it, right? Many of us don't have it, including me. I'm not boasting myself, right? So it is about fire in the belly that, and the right time is to try now, wherein you don't have so much of, to worry about securities, food, or the job security and stuff like that. It's okay, even if you fail, you can, run back. After some time, once you get married, then you become like, there is dependent families and this. See, the thing is, when we all started out, there was no startup culture back in the year 1996 when I came out of college. Now I feel that probably I should have born, a decade or 2 decades later. I could have probably been a different professional altogether in terms of having my own company. Of course, I'm working on one of the startups, which is close to what I'm doing in terms of mentoring and career, AI-based career advisor. Let us see where it goes. If once it is ready, a prototype, I'll give you a shout out to all of you guys to try it out. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, I think we are good. Thank you so much for your time and all the best on your studies.
Thank you
Okay,
so much,
keep in
sir.
touch.
And
Thank you.
thank you for
Yeah,
joining
Thanks,
us
sir.
today.
thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much, sir. Goodbye.
Bye.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll be ending the session. So thank you so much, and keep your eyes peeled for more informative sessions like this from the IIC. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a great day. Have a great evening. Thank you so much, sir, once again.
Thank you.